Welcome to Community. I'm your host, Cody Thompson, and I'm so excited to have my guest with me today, Emily from Rosie Disability Services.
Hello.
Emily, thank you for coming on our show today.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's great to have you here. We're going to talk about a range of topics today, but just to get us started, tell us a little bit about you and how you're connected to the disability sector.
Yeah, so I'm the Director of Rosie Disability Services. We do support coordination for NDIS participants and we do provider training as well. So we'll sit down with providers and, train them on how to write reports and around legislation and NDIS guidelines.
Yeah, fantastic. And what got you into doing all of that great stuff?
I mean, my background, I entered the sector as a planner. So
Okay.
I worked as an LAC at APM. And yeah, specialise as a planner, but I would be sitting down with participants and with therapists and coordinators and say, the reports that you've given me don't really reflect what you're asking for, so I can't give you that sort of plan. And I got so frustrated in having that conversation over and over again. So I decided to come out and do coordination, and it changed everything for me.
Love that.
And yeah, obviously teaching providers, look, this is what needs to be in a report.
Yep.
That's ultimately going to impact a lot more participants than what I can as one coordinator. So,
Yeah, big time. Makes a lot of sense. Do you remember, was there a moment, I don't know, a day or a piece of time where you're like, no, that's it. Like you said, you were a planner, it's a very important role. It sounds like you're constantly banging your head against the wall in terms of legislation and things that are happening, guidelines. Was there a time where you were like, no, that's it. I'm crossing the line.
Yes.
I'm getting out of this.
Yes. There was chatter in LAC land that planning wasn't going to sit with LACs anymore.
Okay.
And there was, at that point, it was just chatter. And I picked up on that and went, well, I'm not doing anything else. I don't think sitting here explaining a plan to someone that's been approved they're not going to be happy with.
Yep.
And then that's it. That's going to be my job. That wasn't a fulfilling sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that was it for me. I'm out.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think, in no disrespect to the planners out there, because they do an incredible job with the ability that they have to be able to influence people. But yeah, it would be almost transactional at times. And like you said, very yes or no, black and white, where I think that can be really challenging when you're a compassionate person. You actually want to really help people and see it through.
Yeah, and that is exactly what it was. It was just that constant, it was almost daily conversations that I was having of, I understand this is what you need, but the, reports from your allied health professionals or from your support workers or something like that, it's not justified. I can't justify it. It's not, I know you need this. I wish I could, but, I don't have it.
Yeah, that's it. My hands are tied almost,
Yeah, I
right?
don't have the ammo.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've known you for a little bit in the sector now through our events and different things that we run. One question I've always wanted to ask you, and I've never actually asked you this, why Rosie Disability Services? Is there a bit of inspiration behind the name, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so I entered I became an LAC and a planner because my best friend at the time was an LAC. She worked at APM, so she got me in. But about, I think it was 2022, she unfortunately lost her battle to mental health.
Sorry to hear.
So yeah, the company Rosie is Leah Rosie Jenny Dobbs. So it's her name.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. It's a powerful story, but that's incredible. And I guess the legacy now lives through what you guys do at Rosie on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Yeah. That
That's
was
amazing.
the aim.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you're doing it, so that's great. Now, tell me a bit about what's happening in the NDIS at the moment, like support coordination. And again, I'm probably a passenger to this, so you would be living it and seeing it. But there is what feels like constant reductions to either support coordination hours in plans or quite often now the just removal of support coordination hours and plans. Like, how is that landscape playing out for you guys?
Yeah, it's actually baffling.
Yeah.
We, from day dot, when I started Rosie Disability Services, it was going to be unfunded. So we do a lot of access requests, help people apply to the NDIS. We do a lot of unfunded support coordination because we know this is happening. This has been happening for so long, but it's just becoming more frequent and more talked about. And it's just, we just have to roll with it. We have to roll with the punches. We've got so many clients that are completely unfunded because the NDIA are just trying to cut us out. Don't know why, because, LACs can't really replace us.
Yep.
But that's the argument. LACs can, so that's it.
And that's the thing, like you said, as a support coordinator, but also as a business owner, the amount of pressure it must be putting on what you and the team are doing, and I guess more widely just like support coordinators in the industry as a whole. like, how are you guys coping through this at the moment? Like you said, you sort of got to grin and bear it and just get through it. But like that's not like a lasting plan. So like, how are you guys able to do effectively more with less nowadays?
Yeah, I don't really have an answer for it, to be honest. I mean, it's a really emotionally draining sort of area that we're in, I guess, because we do have so many clients that are unfunded, but we are so. It's hard to explain because you're a coordinator, your services are remote, but you're so connected to these people. You can't really just leave them high and dry in the wind and say, well, you've got no money. Like, what am I supposed to do? We can't really do that with people in the sector.
Big time. Yeah. And unfortunately, though, what we are seeing is there are so many businesses going out of service or, out of business because of this. So then, like you said, the flow-on effect is extreme. You've got more and more coordinators doing more and more work, bigger caseloads, even though there are less hours out there at the moment. And then the pressure it puts on families, because then if they lose their support coordinator, all of a sudden mum and dad are expected to pick up the slack as well. So it really does feel like, for lack of a better term, but like a perfect storm at the moment, but it's not in a good positive sense at all.
Not at all. And I think we've really tried to not be that, kind of organisation that overloads their coordinators. So the standard 40 participants per coordinator doesn't exist with us because we've found that that's where people slip through the cracks. And that's where participants go, well, I haven't spoken to my coordinator in 6 months. And that's why, because they're overloaded. So we actually let our coordinators pick their caseload. So we, before saying, we've got this potential referral, would you want to take this on? That's where we're checking in to see, do you have capacity? Do you feel like you're losing quality here?
Love that.
But again, that's hard when you're doing so much unfunded.
Yeah. And that's the trade-off, right? Like, in theory, it's great, but like reality, there's so much other stuff going on there that puts pressure on that.
Yeah.
I still firmly believe, though, not only is the great work being done by coordinators, but I just think it must still be such a rewarding role. And like you said, there's so much negativity happening at the moment, so many challenges, but like you and the team must still, I don't know, come to work with every day with such purpose, just because like there are so many positive stories and so much good influence that a coordinator can have on a participant, but also a family member as well.
Yeah, for sure. I should have looked at statistics for us to give you some like good news stories. But I guess, I don't know how many people we have got on the NDIS through applications, and that's totally unfunded. I can't tell you how many participants we've got into SDA properties, civil properties, who have achieved so many goals. Like I can't tell you how many times we've done something that's been a really positive thing on a participant. I wish I could give you statistics, but it's a really rewarding role.
Big time. And I think that's the other part to it. Like I come from a plan management background, and like we used to talk about this all the time as well, but like there's so many things that support coordinators do that don't end up in a report, don't end up in some way, I guess, a tangible reflection or statistic that then the NDIS can go, oh, well, we see the impact that they're having. Like there's so many just sort of things done behind the shadows, but I don't mean that in a negative context. Like you said, there's no category for it. There's no way to charge for funding for it, but you're helping a family, even as simple as getting on the scheme. Like we do these events all around Australia, meet so many people who are at the very start of their journey. They're lost. They don't know about eligibility. They don't know how to get started. And many times it's the coordinators out there that are doing that unfunded, helping them get started. But again, there's no measure on that. So it just gets lost.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the most frustrating part, especially with access, is GPs and specialists don't know what they need to actually write. Yep. And I have approached so many GPs and I've said, look, I can teach you on what you need to write. They're not interested. They're too busy. So, and I don't know if this is incriminating, but there's so many times where I've written an access report, I've given it to a GP and said, if you agree with this, sign it. Yep. Just so that this person can be put on the NDIS. Yep. And more often than not, they absolutely do sign it. Yep. And that's the only way. And that's hours of report writing already for someone who's unfunded, just trying to get access to the support. And
the supports that they need, right? Like I think that's where it all goes back to. At the end of the day, there are people out there that really need this help, but they're stuck and they need that support. I take a bit of a different tact here, but obviously, as I mentioned, like we do these expos all around Australia. We meet so many different support coordinators out there. There's a bit of a stigma about support coordinators, and I mean this again in a very positive context, but I laugh only because I meet so many coordinators at our events that are like, incognito mode. Like they deliberately go to the event. They're there to get information. They want to know what great local supports are out there. But they do it because if they realize if the rest of the room knows that they're a support coordinator, they're going to get inundated with, hey, this is what I do. Come meet me, like all that sort of stuff. And I know you're laughing because you get this all the time.
Yeah, I really do.
So I'm sure there's plenty of people in the audience that are listening as well that get that. So this is your chance maybe to, like, I don't know, set the record straight or to help, the BDMs out there and all the providers out there. But like, as a support coordinator, how can people approach you in a way that doesn't force you to hide and take cover, but at the same time they can be really respectful to the fact that coordinators are under the pump. They've got a lot going on. They don't need to be speaking to 15 different allied health providers today to get information about their services. Hey guys, a quick message from our sponsors, SN Training. Are you looking for complex care training that you can trust? SN Training are nurse-owned and nurse-led, delivering both accredited training and non-accredited training with a focus in the NDIS high-intensity supports. Compassion is at the forefront of everything they do. They deliver evidence-based, practical education led by experienced nurses who role model best practice and inspire confidence when it comes to high-quality support. With human-centered practice at the heart of everything that they do, you'll not only learn, but you'll learn the right way. SN Training is where expertise meets care and your learning makes a difference. We're so excited to be working with SN Training. They share the same passion that we have for shining the light on positivity in the NDIS sector and for people living with a disability, and we can't wait to keep working with them. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, I think the best way, I think, to actually get a referral from a coordinator is not to say, hey, I do this, and we have capacity. It's tell me why.
Yeah.
Tell me your why. Why are you different? Why, like, where do you specialize? Why do I want to refer my participant, John, who has been with me for 6 months? Why do I want to give him to you?
Yep.
What's your area of expertise? Is there an area of interest? How's that benefiting me? Not just I have capacity.
Yep.
Because this is such a saturated industry. Everyone has capacity. So
Correct.
Why you? That's
Correct.
what I want to know.
Well, there's the message for everyone listening, So I think it's a great way to put it out there.
And buy me a coffee.
Yeah, well,
probably do it.
Coffee always
probably
helps.
do it, one or the other.
Absolutely. But it is so true. Like I'm a firm believer that good people know good people, and that sort of branches out and builds circles around, like I said, knowing a trusted network. But like, if I was to recommend a friend somebody, I'd want to know that when I'm recommending them, and this, could be a tax accountant, it could be anything. If I'm going to put my name next to someone, I want to be able to trust them and that recommendation and know that it's not going to cause any problems. So when you replicate that, but in a support coordinator lens, you don't want to be recommending just an allied health provider that you met on the street, and certainly just because their sales pitch was we've got capacity. Like you said, everybody does, or at least there's a lot out there. So tell me more about the why behind your business. And I think that's where people get lost. Sometimes they're too busy trying to, turn it into a business sale or a transaction. In reality, we are talking about human beings that need trusted help, respect, support, and all of those sorts of things. So, our PSA for everybody listening today, I think, is lead with the why. And like you said, a coffee doesn't hurt.
No, never. Never.
Now, tell me about, I guess, you mentioned a bit before, so I hope I'm not sort of going backwards here, but the passion that you have in this space, like I said, I really respect you from afar in terms of the way the organisation runs, and you as a business owner, not just a support coordinator, go out and connect with people. But it obviously comes from this great place of passion. That seems to be spread throughout your team as well. Like, how do you keep the team so engaged with what they're doing? Is it just passion from where they get it from?
I think so far the team is just pure passion. I think it comes from their background. They've either come from a social work sort of background or, been in the industry for God knows how long. So I think we're all very passionate. We do check in with one another and do upskilling every week. So we will pick a topic, a couple of weeks prior, and we'll do training so that we're always upskilling. We're always, developing our knowledge, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I guess all of us, being in the industry for so long, it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving, and each individual is exactly that. They're individual. So if you're not taking the lens of constantly learning and getting better, then you're going to get stuck. So I love that.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a lot about support coordination within your business, but you mentioned right at the top you do a lot around, training on report writing and that sort of stuff. Can we delve a bit deeper into that? Because it's not something that I think is everywhere, but at the same time, I think the need is absolutely out there.
Absolutely. And I guess over the years, I've done training with other providers, and I've walked away and I've gone, God, I could have Googled that. Like, really, I could have saved hundreds of dollars and just put that into Google. Or, you know, that's not any new information whatsoever, or that's not applicable to me as a coordinator. That would be better for a support worker or something like that.
Yep.
So when I started training, I actually said everything will be custom, and that's not at an inflated price. I want to make sure that everyone's being trained based on their discipline. So, you know, when I'm going to train a physio, I'm not going to tell them what needs to be in an FCA because that's an OT scope. So, I mean, I make it relevant so that you can justify things, and it's more likely that you're going to get the funding secured in a plan for that participant rather than, you know, all of this back and forth. Oh, the NDIS didn't approve it, so this is it now.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you basically work with businesses to re-educate, but almost like shed the light on the right way to write a report to, again, unlock what is required for that participant.
Absolutely. There is a big sort of saying in this sector, well, there's a couple, but my biggest pet peeve is over-recommend so that the NDIS can chop it down. Like, give yourself a little bit of room. If you want 40 hours of OT a year, put it up to 60 because you know it'll be chopped back.
Yep.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves, because if you wrote your report correctly, you'd be able to recommend 40 hours a year and you'd be able to get 40 hours a year. It all comes down to how you write your reports and how you justify it, but no one does it.
We laugh, but it's such a prevalent problem. And, you know, we touched on, you know, access to the scheme before, but these reports are ultimately what unlock access, right? Like, you know, an OT report can be so vital, an FCA can be so vital to the difference between someone being on the NDIS or not being on the NDIS. So the fact that, like you said, unfortunately people Google them, you know, I would say AI is sort of rampant sometimes in terms of what's happening at the moment as well. People doing it that way. It's not tailored, it's not custom, and the end result is, unfortunately, it's not the outcomes that the participant needs.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people can write these reports really easily. A lot of the stuff that I teach is just on the NDIS website. It's nothing new. There's no new guidelines or processes that have come out. The NDIS are just starting to become stricter on the current guidelines, the current legislation. So, you know, just need to have a look at the information and get better quality reports, and you'll be able to actually get it.
Yeah, 100%. And do you have, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot here, but like, do you have any positive stories on the back of that? Like, have there been any sort of good news stories for you where you've been able to, whether it's an individual or whether it's an organisation, like make significant change and I guess have a positive outcome for participants?
Yes, there was one particular organisation that has, I think, only 2 offices north of the river, and they do OT, physio and speech, and I trained their team leaders across those 3 disciplines, and they ended up improving their quality, and they've given that feedback, you know, back to me to say that the way that they've structured their report templates now are in line with what they were taught through the training, and that the impact has been massive.
Yeah. That's so good. I know. Yeah, that's the difference.
That's great.
I was like, well, kudos to you, but at the same time, like that's the ripple effect of the change, right? Being able to like educate people on how to do their job, and not from a place of you weren't doing it before, but like this is how it needs to be done. This is to standard, and again, the standard then unlocks so much more for everybody else. Yeah,
and I guess the hard thing is you know, like some people in this industry, especially therapists, have been around for so long and they're so good at their job, but they don't upskill, they don't do that continuous professional development on the report writing, like skills and things like that. So important, keep doing that. But the report writing, this is an evidence-based insurance scheme, so your evidence needs to be schmick.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Now, what about for, I guess, some of our audience that are out there? Again, you know, we talk about access onto the scheme. Some people are out there, they have a plan, let's say for their child. They, in their belief, need support coordination hours in their plan, or potentially had it in the past, no longer have it. What advice can you give them? Like, how can they advocate for themselves and their child to potentially get the support coordination that they need in their next plan?
It's a hard one.
Yeah.
There's no like one thing fits all for all planners and for all LACs, but I guess not being able to advocate for your child is a big one. Not being able to navigate the scheme, advocate, get the right services in place, all that sort of stuff. That's probably the easiest way generally to get support coordination funded. There's really not a good answer for that one.
It's all right. I think, again, there's, like you said, there's not a cookie cutter. It's not a one size fits all approach. There's not one way to get through it. It's about sort of many different things, but I think it's more about like trialing what's out there, like you said, giving as much information as possible, and at the end of the day, just advocating as best as you can for yourself and for your situation.
Absolutely.
But like I said, that in itself still takes a turn.
Yeah, it does.
Well, what about let's talk more broadly about the NDIS for a moment.
Mhm.
Like, firstly, for me, like, where do you see the scheme is right now? And I mean that in the lens of there is so much change. I personally think there's a lot of negativity around the NDIS at the moment, but it feels like it's very much from the outside. So it's from people that don't work in the industry. They see the the news reports about dodgy providers. They see the cost that it costs the taxpayer, and that just creates this groundswell of negativity. But then working in the industry for so long now, and again, being at my expos and seeing the great providers that are out there, the participants that have fun, are living a life like they should be, enjoying themselves, being able to do what they should be able to do. I feel like there's still so much positivity on the inside. So, like, what's your personal take on where we sit right now? Is it all negative? Is it positive? Like, where are we?
I block out the negativity.
Good.
I make sure that our staff block out the negativity as well. So every fortnight, we will have what's called the Rosie Roundup,
Cool.
where we will all sit in a Teams meeting and we will talk about wins.
Love that.
So no negativity whatsoever. It's a win. And that's how I want everyone, under us to or attached to us to be, living every day.
Yep.
Is thinking about the positives. I think there is so much negative, but I'll block it out. There's no need in this industry. You're here to create positive impact on participants. So why are we focusing on the negatives?
Yeah. And I hope you get this analogy, but like, I'm a firm believer in this. So like, recently I was looking at getting a new car, and I really liked this certain color, as a blue color that I liked. And I'd never seen it before. I was like, that's pretty cool. And then I feel like now I see it all the time, but I almost feel like my eyes are like in tune to seeing it. And I reckon there's a lens to that in life, that if you're always looking for the negative stuff, you'll find it. Like, it just sort of exists. And likewise, and again, I'm so guilty of this as well, but like, we probably don't spend enough time looking for the positives. But it sounds like you guys at your organization at least are, like, you're training the team to come to those meetings looking for positivity. And I think, again, like the blue car, if you're actually looking for it, you'll find that you actually see it a lot more often.
Yeah. I think, especially as a coordinator, you have this, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome is the right way to say it, but am I responding quick enough? Have I referred the right people? Am I doing this correctly? You always have this second guessing sort of feeling behind yourself. You're always anxious about something.
Yeah.
So I think if we're sitting here focusing on the negatives of the NDIA and the scheme and, what other providers are doing, that's only going to add to the anxiety that you feel as a coordinator.
Absolutely.
So I'd rather, sit here and go, yeah, I did a good job with John's OT.
Yeah.
I'd rather be positive.
Exactly. And celebrate what we are doing right now and the impact that it's having. 100%. Now, I noticed you didn't bring your crystal ball today, so that's fine. But we are going to talk a bit about the future now, so stay with me. But again, there is so much change happening. None of us know exactly what's going to happen. And the NDIS, I'm going to say, do a good job, a bit facetiously here, but in this sense, they do a good job of like drip feeding. Hey, there's change coming, get ready for it. And then there's no other information that tends to follow, or the breadcrumbs take a while to sort of catch up. Mm-hmm. But where do you think we're going to be in 5 years' time? And I know that's a very open-ended question, but like, in terms of just like broad spectrum, the industry as a whole, where do you think it's going to be? Or maybe a better way to answer that is, where do you want it to be in 5 years' time?
In 5 years' time, I would love for LACs to have their planning back, the planning authority back.
Yep.
I think this doesn't make sense, what's happening at the moment, where, you sit with your LACs and you're just updating goals, and then you have a phone call from a random NDIA planner and you have the full planning meeting.
Yep.
I think that should be reverted. So hopefully in the next 5 years, if we talk about it enough, they can reverse that. Yep. I think maybe there should be more of a crackdown as well. There seems to be, we're going towards a crackdown on funding, on providers, on invoicing, all that sort of stuff. So I feel like everything's going to become much more stricter.
Yep.
And it should. Yep. I agree with that, but there should be a level of accessibility for organisations as well. So if they're going to implement registration for everyone and make it mandatory, make it accessible.
Yeah.
For providers, because it is a very expensive and lengthy process. Very expensive.
Yep.
How is that for everyone?
Now we're heading into the Sharp 7 part of the podcast. So this is where I ask you a couple of questions that are a bit more designed to get you thinking, but in the sense of a shorter, sharper response, okay? Now, I say the first one's easy, but that's only because it's just a one-word answer, all right? Okay. So the first question is, what's one word that describes the state of the NDIS right now? Here we are today.
there's only one that comes to mind. I really don't think it's right, but like rebirthing.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's all right. I like that. I thought we were going to have to beep something out for a second there, so it's good we don't have to beep. That's all right.
I've tried my hardest, Cody. No, rebirthing I think is the only
that.
way that comes to mind right
Yeah.
now.
No, I like that. It's I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'll back you on that. All right. Number 2, what's the biggest challenge you see in the sector right now? Like we've rattled off a few things already today, but what's the biggest challenge out there right now?
I think the biggest challenge is that this industry is so saturated.
Yep.
Finding providers that are here for the right reason, not, to do a million different services in a million different categories, just being able to stay in their own lane, do things properly.
Yep.
Is it a good quality service? Are you here, to really make an impact, or are you here to make a couple of dollars? That's the biggest difficulty because it's so saturated.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think one thing, or certainly limited things, but do them incredibly well, and then have a good network where you can recommend of others that are doing something great in their space, right?
Yeah.
So no, I love that. All right, what about, we talked a little bit about this, but I want to sort of hear in your own words, but like, what's the most rewarding part of your job?
It's hard. There's so many aspects.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so cliche, but having participants, connect with all their services and then go, well, I don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
That's ultimately the goal. We weren't here as a support coordinator to be here forever.
Yeah.
I want you to get to a point where you can effectively advocate, you can navigate yourself, and you don't need me. I don't want to be here forever.
Yeah.
I mean, some people we will be.
Yeah.
And there's no problem, but that's the most rewarding bit when I go, rightio, well, after all these years, no worries, see you later.
Yeah. I remember when I joined the industry, one of the first support coordinators I ever met told me that. She's like, my goal is to basically make my participants not need me. And if I do that, then I've done my job. And I'm like, at first I was like, what the hell do you mean? But it's so true. And again, it must, in the nicest way possible, be so rewarding to be like, you don't need me anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you've built this all up yourself.
It's actually empowering for me.
Yeah.
To be able to go, I have empowered you.
Yep.
To do this.
Yeah.
Off you go. You don't
Be
need
free.
me. Yeah, be free.
Now, let's talk about question 4. So if funding wasn't an issue, we talked a lot about funding today, but if funding wasn't an issue, what's a new service that Rosie would start doing right now, straight away offering to people? If you could do anything, what would it be?
It would just be more free stuff.
Yeah.
I think it would be more access requests. It would be more unfunded support coordination. If funding wasn't an issue and it wasn't about money,
Yep.
it would just be opening up to more people.
Yeah. And there is so much need in that access space. We see it all the time at our events. It's vital, and there are some organisations that dabble in it and sort of help it in that sense. But it's a non-funded area for obvious reasons. But there is so many people stuck in that part of the journey. So I hope we get to a point where you're able to do even more in that space.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Now, what's the best advice you've ever received as a business owner?
Do you know what? I was watching one of your past episodes and you asked somebody this.
Yeah.
I've actually never received any.
Oh, okay.
I've not listened to anyone. Same with the negativity, sorry.
Yeah.
I do not listen to anyone.
Yeah.
The only piece of advice that really sits with me is
Yeah.
work harder, no one cares.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think that's a negative one.
Oh, I see where it comes from.
I see where it comes from.
Yeah.
But I think as a business owner, you're under the pump.
Yep.
So, after a couple of weeks of working 7 days a week until 11:30 in the evening, 1 o'clock in the morning,
Yep.
I need to fill my own cup up. So I get it. Work harder, no one cares. But you got to care about yourself. You got to fill your own cup. I think that's the only piece of advice that's ever stuck out to me.
Yeah, no, I like that. And again, knowing you, I think you are a trailblazer. So in a good way, you're riding your own path and running it. And I think that's what many people really respect about you. But I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, again, as a business owner, like there's so much going on. It doesn't stop. You don't stop. And if you do, you know that you're effectively dropping the ball because things will bank up. But also, if you don't take a moment to look after yourself, then there is no point because there's going to be a problem down the line. So I think that, and if I can give you some advice, given that you haven't had any here,
right, I'm all ears.
No, but I totally agree. I think, and I'm probably guilty at this, so I probably shouldn't be giving this advice too strongly, but I do think that we as business owners and as people that are constantly looking after people, we need to take a moment to look after ourselves. And if we're able to find the best version of ourselves, then we're able to have the biggest impact. So if we're running at 60% capacity because we're doing the late nights and doing all the hours, it actually probably is better if we take a bit of a break and then the next day we hit it at 80% because we're able to do more with the time that we have.
Yeah, well, I've already got that support coordinator imposter syndrome where am I doing it right? Now I'm at that business side of things as well. Am I doing that right? I'm sleep deprived, I'm caffeinated, it's just going to go badly.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, well, we got 2 to go.
Okay.
This one's about you. So this is about him. Away from the business owner, away from the support coordination arm. Like, what's something that someone doesn't know about you? Like, what's a hobby or an interest about you that not everyone knows?
I ride motorcycles.
Oh, cool. I did not know that. Yeah, cool.
I've got a sports bike.
Yeah, love that. Okay, well, there's your angle. That's what you should be doing when you need to have a bit of a break, right? When you just go hit the dirt track and just get away for a bit.
Nah, road.
Oh, road. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay, road. Okay.
No, I tried dirt bike. It's not my
okay,
not
yeah,
my
cool.
jam. It's too dirty.
Yeah.
That's
so
what we
just
do.
Go for a ride, get some fresh
Go
air.
for a ride. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, nice. Okay. And then my last question is the same for everybody to close out the Sharp 7, but how do you define community?
Okay. I think community to me is, feeling like you belong somewhere without having to explain or justify yourself.
Yeah.
So I think it's not really about proximity or shared labels or values or anything like that. I think it's more of a shared responsibility of showing up for one another.
Yeah,
in human ways, but consistently as well, so that, even on the hard days, so that that your presence genuinely matters. That's more what community is to me.
Love that. Very cool. Okay. Well, we've talked about a range of things today, and I genuinely appreciate you've given us a really good lens from a business owner point of view, obviously from a support coordination arm as well, which is great. So thank you. What's your final message for our audience today if they're listening, whether they're a fellow support coordinator, business owner, for everybody out there? Like, what can you leave us with today as a bit of a final sort of parting gift?
I think there's so much negativity. We've talked about it. I think everyone is very much blaming NDIS planners and the NDIA for funding cuts and things like that. But I sort of want to urge everyone to educate themselves.
Yep.
To look at why, not just, get angry about it, get negative. Look at why. What do I need to now write in a new report, or what do I now need to say in the next meeting, or, how do I back myself instead of going, oh, well, the NDIS aren't really willing to play ball with me.
Yep.
Let's play ball with them.
Yeah.
Educate yourself.
Very cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Well, like I said, thank you so much. It sounds like you need a coffee. I know you love when people buy you one. I didn't bring one today, so that's fine. But thank you. For all of our audience as well, just quickly, if they want to get in touch with Rosie, find out more about what you and the team are doing, how can they do that?
So they can find us on the website, rosiedisabilityservices.com.au. We've got Instagram, we've got Facebook. We don't have TikTok. I don't think I've got the capacity for that.
There's too many social channels these days.
I know. And that's my doom scroll, I think.
Yeah.
So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, anywhere.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're very busy, but we really appreciate it. And yeah, like I said, it's been great to chat.
No, it was cool. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.